Ancient Tree Gruft Raid Walkthrough. Hello everyone, it's great to see you again. This time, I'm bringing you a walkthrough to fight against the second boss, in the Root of Corrosion raid, Ancient Tree Gruft. This raid is more challenging compared to the first boss, both in terms of equipment requirements and mechanics. Without further ado, let's dive right in and learn about the specific dungeon clearing tips that cover team formation, dungeon characteristics, boss mechanics, and more. Team formation. The following configuration and recommendations are based on elite difficulty. 2 healers, 2 tanks, 6 damages. Elite difficulty requirements: equipment level greater than or equal to 97, hit greater than or equal to 315. Specific class assignments: healer, Divine Grace Priest, mandatory, high single target, group healing, damage reduction buff, plus soul healing Phantom Necro. Alternative class: Harmony Bard. Tank, Frozen Barbarian Fighter, mandatory, team buffs, plus guarding Paladin. Alternative class: War Shield Warrior. Damage, Flame Mage, mandatory, high burst damage, plus Wrathful Warrior plus Cunning Shadow Swordsman, continuous damage, plus Thunder Barbarian Fighter, mandatory, team buffs, plus Solo Bard plus Hunting Ranger. Recommended ultimate: universal for all classes, Flash, Displace plus Shield, Personal Heal. Tanks, Single Target Taunt, AoE Taunt, DPS, Healing Reduction. Healers, Resurrection. Dungeon characteristics. Once the battle begins, if it exceeds 5 minutes, Gruft will go berserk. It's crucial to manage this by intercepting, or mitigating his enhancements, which demands teamwork and higher grade equipment. Dungeon walkthrough. Gruft has a multi-phase transition mechanic. In Elite mode, ordinary Gruft will use the following skill set and sequence against players: Nature Shock, then Blade Barrage, then Piercing, then Wild Growth, then Piercing, then Nourishing Mushroom, then Rage of Nature. Special Mechanic 1. There are 4 demon flowers on the battleground. During the battle, 2 of them will randomly enhance Gruft with Flower Ray, a beam that players can intercept. Intercepting the beam temporarily increases the damage players deal, but also increases the damage taken. Pro tip: with a team of 6 DPS, players can alternate intercepting the beam to gain enhancement while keeping the beam stacks below 10. This ensures they benefit from the boost without compromising their own status. Special Mechanic 2. When Gruft's HP drops below 60% and 30% for the first time, it enters Phase 2. In this phase, the boss gains an invincible aura and new skills, often high damage instant kill skills. Healers during this phase should prioritize monitoring teammates' status to prevent casualties. Skill analysis. Nature Shock. After a 1 sec charge, Gruft randomly attacks 1-3 players with vines. This skill does not have special buff effects, but its AoE damage requires careful positioning to avoid. Blade Barrage. Gruft deals frontal AoE damage in a 45-degree fan-shaped area. This skill does not have any special buff effect. Pro tip: the tank with the highest hatred should forcibly turn Gruft away from teammates when this skill is used to prevent them from taking damage. The tank in melee DPS can move horizontally near Gruft to evade damage. Piercing. Gruft thrusts roots from the ground, inflicting piercing effects on the player with the highest hatred. The player takes more damage from Gruft's base attacks, and the damage they deal will heal Gruft. Pro tip: after being hit by this skill, the affected player should promptly switch aggro to prevent casualties and the boss from recovering HP. Wild Growth. Gruft deals 3 consecutive AoE damage of increasing range in a circular area, and immobilizes players who take damage. Pro tip: before the first damage appears, melee players should stay out of the boss damage warning area, while ranged players can continue to deal damage from beyond the range. After the warning for the second damage appears, melee players should quickly approach the boss to continue to deal damage and maintain hatred on them. Summon Mushroom. Gruft summons a mushroom from afar on the map. The mushroom slowly approaches Gruft, and upon reaching it, recovers a certain amount of HP. Eliminate the mushroom immediately after it respawns to prevent the boss from recovering HP. Rage of Nature. When Gruft's HP drops below 60% and 30% for the first time, it unleashes Rage of Nature. After a 5 sec charge, it deals massive, screen-wide damage. After the skill ends, the demon flowers close, flower rays disappear, and all player buffs are dispelled. Gruft then enters Phase 2. Phase 2 skills. Inviolable, Gruft becomes invincible, continuously dealing massive AO damage around itself. The boss cannot take damage during this phase, so players should stay away from the boss. Summon Guardian. While inviolable, Gruft summons 3 guards in succession to attack players. The guards have no special skills, but deal high base attack damage. Tanks need to taunt them immediately, and focus for to kill them. Pollinate. Gruft scatters pollen on a random player, inflicting hay fever that lasts for 15 seconds, dealing dot to the player. Other players will also contract hay fever if they are near the infected player, who should stay away from the group until the debuff expires. Healers need to promptly recover HP, and activate damage reduction during this period. Green nuts. Gruft charges for 5 seconds, then deals damage in a fan-shaped area of 180 degrees to a random player. The affected area becomes rotting ground, dealing dot to players standing on it. This skill is released 4 times in total, the first time 8 secs after entering Phase 2, and the subsequent times every 12 secs. The direction of the cone will follow a clockwise or counterclockwise pattern. When Gruft uses this skill, the team needs to move together in the same safe direction, ensuring their own safety while continuing to focus fire on the guards. After releasing green nuts 4 times and defeating the 3 guards, Gruft's invincibility is lifted, and it returns to Phase 1. After 2 phase transitions, the boss can be killed upon returning to Phase 1 for the final time, allowing players to clear the dungeon. Battle focus. Before the dungeon begins, the raid leader needs to pre-assign the order for intercepting the beams, positioning at least 4 DPS in advance. Since the beam interception points are fixed, the 2 healers should position themselves relatively centrally to ensure their healing can cover the entire team. This dungeon requires frequent team movements, and different strategies in Phases 1 and 2, testing the coordination between the leader and team members. It's crucial to manage team movement in both keeping away and collaboration to prevent casualties. That concludes the walkthrough for this raid. Best wishes to all adventurers for successful loot runs, and please continue to follow us for more walkthrough analyses from Tarisland.